and it hurts me more than you know, so much more than it shows all at once.
Prime Minister Mr. Joseph Muscat, Minister Silvio Schembri, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick O'Brien. I'm the Director of Communications of Exante, and I'm delighted to welcome you on behalf of Stasis to our official press launch this morning. It has been Malta's proactive, positive approach that has managed to turn the island into a hub and a prominent player for cryptocurrency and blockchain. I'll have to say a big thank you to you, Prime Minister, and to Honourable Schembri for opening doors and discussions when most of our European neighbours were still sitting on the garden fence. Stasis is one of these new companies now finding its home in Malta. I'm delighted to welcome to the podium its CEO, Gregory Shlomov.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Prime Minister. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you all being here with us here today to mark the launch of our exciting new venture. If not distant time, faced resistance from the public. Let's say 200 years ago, railroads were a very innovative project, and there were hundreds of railroad companies competing for the market. And 100 years ago, let's say there were thousands of car companies. Only in the US, there were 5,000 car producers. And people were still using horses and resisting putting cars on the road. Initially, this innovation was not accepted by the public because of the level of disruption these products provided. Were they also complex? Absolutely. Nobody could understand how a car works or a railroad 200 years ago because the level of technological achievement of humanity was very low back then. Now, fast forward 2008, anonymous individual introduced the technology we now call blockchain. And it took the world 9 years to realize the disruptive phase of it. Last year, as you know, Japan legalized Bitcoin, and it's now accepted as a means of payment in that country. And it literally started a race between countries to compete for intellectual and financial capital in this exciting marketplace. In the United States, for example, states themselves compete for appropriate legislation or business-friendly legislation for digital assets and crypto environment. And I'm honored here to celebrate together with you the very late stage of legislative framework for blockchain and cryptocurrencies in Malta. And this nation is truly one of the few to understand that blockchain is a new railroad. We hope our product, the Stasis Euro token, will introduce the power of blockchain in so many industries we don't even imagine now. Payment, investments, savings, trading, taxation, you name it. We don't even know the applications that will be built over this technology yet. Similar to internet. Like think of vlogging or YouTube. Like 20 years ago when internet was taking off, nobody could even thought that traditional media could be disrupted by this new technology. And now some YouTube channels have more audience than traditional media channels. Today at our press conference, we are ready to answer all your questions on Stasis, on the Euro token, asset tokenization, transparency, financial markets, alternatives, investments, which we specialize in, our special features and future plans. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are just now starting to draw public attention and have yet to win trust, obviously, and respect, and we are here to help. So please feel free to ask whenever you're concerned about. But first, I would like to congratulate Honourable Silvio Schembri personally. He has put a lot of effort in developing a legal framework for virtual assets. However modest our own contribution has been, we are ready to invest all of our experience and expertise to further development the new digital economy here in Malta. Thank you. I now pass the stage to James Farrugia, who also involved in the developing of the legislation and one of the key lawyers here on the island.
So, I'm not a lawyer, but that's fine. So, effectively, I've been asked to just give a brief introduction and an overview of the three laws that we have been working on over the past months. It has been a very, very exciting period for us because we dedicated quite a bit of effort in conjunction with the MFSA, with Honourable Schembri's team, who was sort of really leading it, and his team, which really spent endless hours sort of working on this project, and obviously with the full support of the Prime Minister as well. So it was a really exciting journey. And effectively the plan and the project relates to three laws, right? So we have a new Digital Innovation Authority, and Mr. McCarthy here, who's the new CEO, will have a very exciting job to build it from scratch. And again, the concept of the new authority, just to latch on to what Gregory was saying, came about because of the broad uses of blockchain technology, and it was not thought fit to slot this particular framework under any existing competent authority in Malta, be it the MFSA or the MCA or any other competent authority. And the plan and the direction has always been, we want a focused new authority that pretty much can dedicate time and effort to creating a framework for this new technology, and work very closely with the other competent authorities in Malta insofar as this technology is applied by operators that are supervised by these competent authorities. The second legislation, which is the one which created the framework for technology arrangements and the related service providers, is the ITAS, the Innovative Technology Arrangements and Services Act. Again, this law will fall under the responsibility of the new MDIA. Thirdly, we have the third law, which is the Virtual Financial Assets Act. Again, this project was pretty much driven by the MFSA. Again, fantastic team. They really worked endless hours and very hard, and consulted extensively with stakeholders in order to make sure that we tackle all the particularities of this sector, and we come up with a regime which is as robust and comprehensive as possible. The ITAS effectively pretty much deals with a voluntary regime. Again, there was a lot of debate and discussion whether this regime ought to be mandatory or voluntary. In reality, we all knew that there were a number of operators based in Malta in this sector who may or may not feel the need to seek certification of their technology, of their blockchain technology arrangements in Malta by the MDIA. And as a result, after, again, extensive consultation, and here I would like to also thank all the other competent authorities who were part of the sort of discussion team, who were very forthcoming and open to discuss the way this new competent authority will work, the way in which this new law will be handled by the MDIA, and how the interaction between the MDIA and the various competent authorities will work in practice. There was extensive consultation, both public and private, with local and international operators, in order to make sure that as much as possible we tackle all aspects of this new initiative. So in this particular case, the ITAS is very much a voluntary regime. It covers a certification process for blockchain technology, effectively, where the person, the founder, the creator of any blockchain technology will be able to go to the MDIA and seek a stamp of approval, a certification indicating that this particular technology includes and specifies and caters for particular qualities, and that these qualities are there and are pretty much working as they should be. Then there was also the framework for the service providers through this technology arrangement. And again, after extensive discussion, two main service providers were identified, which are the technical administrator, which is pretty much entrusted with the corporate governance and the management of the technology arrangement, and finally the systems auditor. The systems auditor's role is probably going to be the one which is going to hit quite a number of different competent authorities, to the extent that the licensees supervised by these competent authorities are using blockchain technology in their operations. And the systems auditor is pretty much, again, going to be subject to a voluntary registration regime. The third law, which is the Virtual Financial Assets Act, is probably the one which is attracting most attention. Again, this is the law which covers the famous ICOs, right, which are the offering of coins or tokens to the public or to a select group of high net worth or institutional clients. And the plan in the VFA is pretty much to create a disclosure framework in order to make sure that prospective purchasers of these coins or tokens will effectively be clearly notified and informed of the characteristics of these coins. And again, here the MFSA has already published the list of information that must be included in the so-called white paper, which must be given to investors before they commit to invest in these coins or tokens. Then, apart from that, this law also covers what we refer to as VFA service providers. So any person operating an exchange, any person operating a market-making business, a brokerage business, a wealth management business, which is dealing in virtual financial assets, will again be subject to regulation on a mandatory basis under this Virtual Financial Assets Act. This law will fall under the responsibility of the MFSA as the competent authority, because it is very much an investor protection-driven piece of legislation. And again, given that we are talking about products which are very similar, even though with their particular qualities to investments, obviously having the MFSA as the competent authority is really the way to go. Here we are pretty much a cut above the rest of other member states in the EU, because we are the first state who has come up with a very comprehensive, dedicated framework dealing with this particular asset class. And again, I believe extensively in the first mover advantage, and we are definitely first movers within the EU, but also in a wider context. So effectively, if you are operating an exchange dealing in virtual financial assets, or you're safekeeping these virtual financial assets in the so-called wallets, or if you're managing a portfolio of virtual financial assets, or recommending any investor to buy or sell a virtual financial asset, all these activities will be subject to supervision under this new law. And I can tell you, I've only been in this industry for a little under 20 years, and in private practice for a little over 11 years. And I have never, ever seen the level of interest that we are getting since we obviously informed the community that Malta is obviously coming up with this initiative. Malta is really being placed at the forefront in this particular sector, and hopefully when the European peers will catch up, when the EU will catch up, we will have quite a few years of experience having dealt with this particular sector. So my final note are these three pieces of legislation perfect? Definitely not. Are they a fantastic product? Definitely yes. Obviously, there is clear the willingness from Honourable Schembri and from the MFSA, and I'm sure from the MDIA, to improve and learn as we go along. And this is really what we are sort of very much excited about. We will definitely learn, the more operators will come to Malta, they will bring knowledge to the island, we will all learn, the regulators, the operators, the advisors, and we will improve as we go along. There is a clear willingness to improve, and I am sure that we have a really bright future in this particular sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. James, of course, will be staying for a Q&A section at the end of our speeches. But now, please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Joseph Muscat.
Thank you very much. It is maybe a sheer coincidence that on the very day we are here at this launch of this event aimed at addressing a growing demand from investors towards cryptocurrencies. On this very day, the Maltese Parliament will pass the third and final reading of 3 separate bills, which we were given a very clear illustration of, that will eventually be enacted in our national laws. So this is the final stage of parliamentary approval, which we will reach this evening. These acts will create the world's first legal framework for this technology. The bills in question, the Malta Digital Innovation Authority Act, the Innovative Technology Arrangement and Services Act, and the Virtual Financial Assets Act, will form a very solid regulatory framework that will offer legal certainty, thus contributing to attract even further investment in this space. The Virtual Financial Assets Act is of particular relevance to this launch, as it is the bill that will set out the regulatory regime for MFSA to regulate ICOs, exchanges, and related service providers. The regulation of these sectors will provide a concrete answer to the present vacuum internationally, offering, amongst others, market protection for consumers and the companies involved. The licensing requirements, procedures, and obligations will offer consumer protection by increasing transparency, while ensuring market stability by minimizing abuses. At the same time of doing this, innovation will still be encouraged, as the right signals will be transmitted in terms of quality. Malta has become a trailblazer now in these emerging technologies, which will complement our financial services sector, especially through fintech. I am informed that EURS will be on the London-based exchange, the SX, which extends the internationalization of our economy. I therefore look forward for Stasis to apply for the required license and certification for our regulatory regime and be in line with our regulatory environment and requirements. I congratulate you for this very important milestone, a milestone being marked here in Malta, a country on its way on becoming the blockchain island. I am sure that all the work being done to diversify our already booming economy will help us attract even more talent and investment to our country. Thank you very much and best of luck.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll just take a short break now in order for the Prime Minister to fulfill his other engagements. So 5-minute break and then we'll return with a Q&A session, okay? Thank you.
euros. He tells me, baby, better come back later next week. Cause you see, I'm on the losing streak. I can't get no. Ooh, no, no, no. Hey, hey, hey. That's what I say. That's what I say. I can't get no. I can't get no. I can't get no satisfaction. Satisfaction. No satisfaction. I am not proud. I was wrong. And the truth is hard to take. I feel sure we had enough, but our love went overboard. Lifeboat lives lost at sea. I've been trying to reach your shore. Waves of doubt keep drowning me. All the dreams that we were building, we never fulfilled them. Could be better, should be better. For lessons in love, for restless eyes, eagles burn.
Please take your seats again, please. Thank you very much.
Now we've waded in too deep, and love is over.
And Honourable Silvio Schembri.
Yeah, 1, 2, 2. 2.
Okay, if we can get started on the Q&A, and thank you, Honorary Silvio Schembri, for staying with us. We appreciate it. I think we've someone already who has the first question, so.
Is it on? Yeah. I buy a lot of crypto, and I have never bought US dollar tether. A lot of controversy. So really, for me, I would like to understand what Stasis can bring to the table.
Sorry, let us check the mic. Sorry, have you got a second mic?
Okay, I'll start again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, perfect.
So I buy a lot of crypto, and I've never bought US dollar tether due to controversy. So really, my question is, what is Stasis bringing to the table for me as an investor?
Sure. When it comes to institutional investor, there is a huge request for transparency of the counterparty they transact with. So Stasis will be posting daily balances of its reserves on its website, and will be audited quarterly by a Big Four firm. And that will provide an unparalleled level of transparency for the market participants to understand what is backing our token that is traversing on the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay, has someone else a question? Okay.
Hi, Gerald Fenner from CCN. Gregory, you announced that you have a pairing with Ethereum for the Stasis coin. Would you be maybe in the future introducing further pairings with other cryptocurrencies? And why did you choose the Ethereum blockchain for your initial pairing?
Yeah, very good question. Well, first of all, Ethereum blockchain is one of the most secure blockchains out there currently in the world. The cost of submitting a false transaction is now in billions of euros of equivalent. But we definitely want to tokenize more assets, and I would be glad to do this once there is appropriate legislation in place that allows us to do more than just crypto euro or crypto pound or crypto yen. Maybe Silvio can address that. Are there any plans bringing more favorable legislation to tokenize real assets like real estate or securities?
Thank you for that, for getting me in. No, basically, yes. Obviously, as James, during his presentation, said, we are willing, obviously, to change the legislation, although now it is set, and as you know, today it will be the final reading, the third stage, and it will be enacted into law. It does not mean that it will not evolve. This industry per se is very dynamic and evolves as we speak. So basically, yes, we are willing to continue to expand further our legislation, and this is type of a learning curve. So the way the government works is that we listen, we take suggestions, we see what can be done and what cannot be done, keeping in mind that we are a European Union member country, and therefore whatever we do has to be in line with international and EU law. But having said that, I think we already are in a position to actually showcase our product, and what we have presented so far is, I think, at the moment top-notch when it comes to legislation. But yes, why not? We'll definitely continue to see on further expansion of this legislation to continue expand further our ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question? Okay.
So a question for Gregory. A stablecoin offers a very valuable proposition, and there are entire industry sectors, like for instance the insurance industry, which are just waiting for something like this. But keeping a stable coin stable becomes quite of a challenge, especially when the coin is being exchanged in other exchanges. We've had examples of the MakerDAO, who was like one of the first stable coins, and we know it is stable to a certain degree. There are like variations, tolerances. So my question is here, just out of curiosity, how do you ensure the stability, notwithstanding the reserve you mentioned, the moment that you start exchanging this coin on other exchanges? Thank you.
Okay, well, this is about our background. As you know, we're a financial specialist, and we've been managing external capital for a number of years. And we have capacity, and our partners have algorithms in place that will be able to market make on specified exchanges and make sure the rate is pegged. I truly support your thesis that stable coin means price stability, and traders, investors, community, and of course government officials should get proof that the price does not fluctuate much. Only then it can get wider adoption within insurance companies, real estate, restaurants, you name it. Again, I think we still do not know exactly what industries will be disrupted by these breakthrough technologies. And we are here to discover that together.
Okay. Anyone else have a question?
Good morning, Sam Rachurim at Bond Consulting. First of all, I have to say thank you, Malta. Thank you, Prime Minister Muscat and his government for being at the forefront and being so innovative for such launches to be taking place. These are very exciting times for private clients to wanting to invest into Malta. Question for Gregory. Gregory, thank you. There's been very positive feedback regarding Stasis with my clients this week. Some basic questions. I mean, what is the minimum or maximum amount they can invest? And secondly, if they wanted to sort of have cash back, again, convert back into euro, how quickly would that be possible?
Sure. So we are currently facing accredited investors. The ticket is starting at 10 million euro equivalent. Yeah, there is a framework of documents in place which, after appropriate NDA, we are ready to show. The whole transaction can take place in a matter of days. It depends on the banking network, how they will process the payments, obviously. But going forward, we'll be ready to accept not just euro as a collateral, but any security, basically. So it could be bonds or euro bonds or US treasuries or Apple stock or Samsung stock, you name it. We'll just put it in our custody, sell it transparently on the market, and then credit you with crypto euros instead. And the same process could work on the other side. And this way, the banking system can be completely excluded from this equation.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have a question? Nope. We will be staying up. Oh, wait, we have one. Okay. I'll wait for the mic, actually, just for a second.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Silvio Schembri. Some banks in Malta refuse to offer their services to users that buy cryptocurrencies. So do you think that maybe companies opening bank accounts here may face a similar problems? And if so, in the future, how do you think you can address this issue? Thank you.
Yes, this is a question that props up, I think, in every activity or environment where the discussion is crypto. Yes, at the moment, banks are facing difficulties in accepting and opening client accounts because, as far as I'm concerned, banks are opening companies operating accounts, but not when it comes to client accounts. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them in the sense that, obviously, banks have got very restrictive regulatory regimes to follow up. And given that this activity at the moment operates in a vacuum, in an unregulated environment, especially when it comes to AML and KYC, and given that up until today there is no regulatory framework that addresses these issues, banks would find it very difficult, and it is in fact for them very difficult to actually accept the risk which comes with accepting client accounts. Having said that, we are in discussions with banks. There are certain banks that, as their policy, they are not accepting anything that has to do with crypto, but it is not something local, something international. This is something the same that we have faced with the gaming industry. There are certain banks that say that type of digital economy, we do not want to take part in it, but that is their risk operational activity, and it's obviously up to the bank to decide. But there are other banks which are willing to be more risk appetite, to increase their risk appetite in this industry. And obviously the message that we're having is once the bills will be enacted, a lot of questions when it comes to risk associated with this activity will be answered. Obviously, if you'll be licensed, this activity will be now operative in a regulatory environment, the same that happened with the gaming industry and with other digital economy. As we know, when it comes to digital, it is very much more difficult to put that activity being so innovative in a regulatory framework. And I think the success story of Malta was in finding the balancing act between offering a regulatory regime environment, but at the same time allowing space for innovation to flourish. And although the situation is more related to corresponding banks when it comes to the dollar rather than local scenario per se, I think that the more time passes, and especially after today that the legislation will be in place and we'll start having the first companies to be licensed and operate within this regulatory framework, obviously the issue with banks will be much more easier for them to start accepting. Having said that, we believe, strongly believe that cryptocurrencies are here to stay, that blockchain is the future technology, and the banks can resist that technology as much as they can, but technology will ultimately win. Advancement and they cannot stop technology. And this is the message that I deliver also to other governments. Malta, we decided to lead and to embrace technology and to embrace disruption. You cannot stop progress, you cannot stop technology. You either embrace it or technology will basically command you. So we rather take it together.
Okay, thank you. Have we another question?
I have two questions for Silvio Schembri from Daniele Chicca from Cryptonomist. The first is, what's the next step to take in order to see cryptocurrencies introduced at the European Union level?
Yes, obviously I cannot answer for European Union, but I can say the general feeling at the European Union. Obviously we had informal sessions, informal meetings, and if you have questioned me that question about 9 months ago, I would say that the general feeling was to ban cryptocurrencies. We were debating this issue, and we were telling other peers, wait for us to come up with this legislative framework, give us some time, we can do that in a couple of months, and I thank all the operators, Ganado and my staff, for actually keeping with the timeline. It was not an easy task, but a lot of dedication and work was given to this project, and basically they were satisfied with what we're providing. So now we're seeing a lot of interest from other European countries, such as France, Germany, and other institutions at European level. Even the European Parliament has just launched the European Observatory Blockchain Forum. And apart from that, there was even recently a vote of confidence at the European Parliament from member of European Parliament. As far as I'm concerned, there was only 2 abstention and 1 vote against. So it was quite a strong message that I think the change in line of thought from banning to regulation now it is much more stronger. Even when you listen and hear Christine Lagarde, that basically she stated directly, look, cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and we have to look on how to offer a regulatory regime. And we are proud in the sense that while other European peers are starting to discussing on how to regulate, we are actually starting to operate. And I think we have a very strong regulatory regime that can act even and serve as a blueprint for other European countries.
And the second question is also related with the European Union. Can you tell us more about the European blockchain partnership? Which kind of project the 300 million investment from the EU by 2020 will be allocated to?
I think you're asking that question to the wrong person. I'm not the person that is leading that project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you could come over here. Get to Marvin.
I hope it's not something with food.
Well, it's not really with food, but one of the things that we've already been working on is local businesses accepting cryptocurrency as part of payment, and I think this is a very strong argument because there are a lot of public people more than there is banks, and if we give more public knowledge into explaining to people how this is actually possible and how easy it is and how easy traceability also, it's faster than a credit card, faster than anything. I mean, last night in 3 of my restaurants I got payments in Bitcoin and in Eurocash now. Yeah. So basically, I think that more and more important is to give public knowledge and organize events where the public are more aware of what actually is and make it more simple for people to understand the simplicity of it.
Well, I think it is more of a statement rather than a question. Yes, I agree with you. We, as a government, we intend to start, obviously, then issuing more in terms of educational campaign, not only on crypto, on blockchain, but also on the work the government is doing. As a government, we are also putting the first government-backed conference in October 3rd to 5th, the Delta Summit, where that would serve as an occasion for our stakeholders and people and innovators who would like to actually see what we're doing, and obviously will serve as for the government to showcase what we have been doing, to actually participate, and therefore you are all invited to participate in that activity as well.
Okay, thank you.
L'appetito viene mangiando.
My question is to Silvio Schembri or maybe James Farrugia from tax perspective. How Maltese tax authorities are approaching crypto holders, cryptocurrencies, businesses which hold cryptocurrencies, and is this way applicable for other European states to follow?
Yeah. So effectively, as these 3 pieces of legislation that will be approved today are only the beginning. The intention is obviously, and work has already started in the space, on a number of different facets to obviously cater for different aspects of this new area, amongst which are anti-money laundering and taxation. And discussions have already started with both the FIAU, with Honourable Schembri's team, the MFSA, and other stakeholders to discuss and come up with a framework dedicated to this area. Because obviously anti-money laundering is in this area is very technology-based. And as with everything, the exciting thing about this area is that as soon as you identify an issue, there are going to be entrepreneurs who are going to see the opportunity, give a technological solution, and the issue is then tackled in that way. On the taxation side, there are also discussions which are ongoing with the Inland Revenue, through also the IFSP, I believe, in order to come up with clear guidelines on how the Maltese tax rules will apply in this particular space. These will be published in, I would assume, in the coming weeks for everyone to consume.
Yeah, if I may add, as you all know, Malta has got a very attractive tax regime, and the idea is to basically extend this activity to that attractive tax regime. So we will not reinvent the wheel there. I think we already have a very strong, robust tax regime, and most probably the idea and the discussions we're having is that we'll extend this activity to that.
Okay, I think that's it for the Q&A. Of course, the Status team will be staying behind, so if you have any questions further, you can speak with them later. I think Gregory would like to do a small little lottery before we leave. Is that correct, Gregory?
Yes. Do you have more time? Yes. Okay. So basically, I'm sure you guys all installed Stasis wallet. If not, you should do so. I can show you how easily it could be done. Yes, it works, right? So if you go to the App Store, which is a typical App Store of iPhone or Android device, you search for Stasis wallet there, and then you install it. And then after a small procedure of setting up passwords, you'll end up with this interface. Where you see your balance, your transactions. I have a couple euros here. And if you press receive, this is your blockchain number or address. It's unique. It only belongs to you, and you hold the keys to this address. Until you have the keys, the private keys, the password basically, which you saw after you installed the wallet, you have access to this purse, to this blockchain wallet. And when you send a transaction, and now we'll do some small lottery, we'll send some introductory euro tokens, which are backed by 1-to-1 to euro, and we have reserves in the account of the company that issued these tokens. And Mr. Silvio, if... Okay. So we just select some random person who contributed to our lottery. Ian Dawson, Euromed Capital. If Ian is here, he will be getting 100 EURS tokens. If not, we'll just send them to charity. And we have a crypto charity initiative.
Ian is here, though. It's you.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, he had to leave. Okay, it's okay. We give it to charity. I know he'd want it to go to charity.
Let me select another potential lucky drawer. Joshua Elul. Joshua Elul, if I'm pronouncing correctly. Okay. So nobody's a third guy. Let's find some courageous person who will be ready to receive.
Yes.
We actually transferred 40,000 euro to to help fund Serenity Garden at the St. Mama Oncology Center here in Malta. And this is a real initiative that was funded from all over the world. People from New Zealand even funded this small project of ours. And with this project, we wanted to prove that the gap can be bridged between the centralized finance, which maybe is hard to understand and technologically advanced, and the people who need real actions today on the ground. So I'm selecting the third drawer. It is Katerina Pashnenko. Katerina Pashnenko, sorry if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I think she left already as well, yes.
Okay, well, okay. Last one, last lucky hand.
Please accept it.
Last lucky hand. James Farrugia.
You already tested it yesterday.
James Farrugia.
So let's say I can confirm that he tested it yesterday and I received 10 euros. They're here. But please give them to charity as well.
Okay, so charity will be getting 900 crypto euros as of tonight. And if anybody's still willing to test the wallet, we are here to help you and install it and navigate this technology. So I think
that's it.
Wrapping up.
Yes, on behalf of Gregory, on Schembri, James Frudish, thank you very much. I thank every one of you coming along. Of course, we'll be having a networking little social after this event, so please feel free to speak to whoever you need to speak to. On Schembri, I know you have some engagement, so I appreciate everything, and thank you very much. And we wish you the best of luck.
I'm gonna make it all, make it. Oh, don't think me unkind. Words are hard to find. They're only checks I've left unsigned. From the banks of chaos